Good afternoon, everyone. This is Shadowfoot once again. And, well, hey, look, other bikers. Ooh. We're gonna catch up with them. Come on, turn green. I want to catch up with them. Hello, this is Shadowfoot once again, and I'm coming back to bring you a nice little recording. So, the topic of today is, what is a furry? And I can tell you, but it's kind of confusing at first. But after you get the hang of it, it's like, oh yeah, now I get it. So what is a furry? By direct definition, a furry is an anthropomorphic, or someone that wants to portray themselves as an anthropomorphic. It sounds a little confusing, but take for instance my persona. I am a dragon named Shadowfoot. And it gets into a little bit more details, like I have elemental abilities, you know, about 6 foot tall, small dragon, you know, has a lot of power. And, you know, your character can get very, very detailed. It's a little bit like LARP, live action roleplay. Except you roleplay yourselves as, you know, your character. So, and I've even seen LARP furries before, which makes sense because, you know, in like old role-playing games, you could be like an ogre or a highwayman or elf, goblin, you know, all the legacy creatures they can be. And a furry, you have no limitation except that it has to be like an anthropomorph of some kind, some animal that has humanistic characteristics. Kind of like take any of the Disney films, for instance. Well, correction, almost any of the Disney films that are animated. And there is, in almost 99% of all of the Disney films, there are, you know, they're all furries. I mean, you got a bird that's picking up stuff, like using their wings as hands, and other cool stuff like that. I caught up with them. Amazing. Now I have to get off here. But basically, what a furry is your character personified by you. So, like for instance, one of the most common furries, maybe for lack of originality, is a fox. Like everyone wants to be a fox or a wolf or a dog. I mean, they make up probably the large majority of all furries out there, and don't get me wrong, there's a ton of dragons, but, you know, at least with the dragon being a mythical type creature, they can have mage-like elemental abilities, bending skills, you know, all kinds of cool stuff. Anyway, I needed to stop and continue this again, so I had a small intermission I had to take, so... But anyway, back onto the subject of furries. You could have furries that are very simple, like Argonians. For anyone that's played Skyrim, you'd know what those are. Or you could have very complex furries. Now, when it comes to conventions, you can have quite a variety. A lot of people on the more dedicated spectrum that want to will dress up like their persona in something that's called a fursuit. Now, usually these are custom tailored and created very, very specifically, and they can be very expensive. You can get a cheap one for about a couple $100. That or a partial for about a couple hundred, but it's going to be fairly poor quality. The more complex your creature is, the harder it is to design, because it's mostly made of foam and fabric. But people do get very artistic when it comes to their designs, and some have embedded fiber optic lighting, and other ones have like fans built into their head, which of course their head is sometimes made of foam, sometimes high quality PVC, or vacuum molded plastic, ASB, or resin. So there's all kinds of outfits that you can have set up. Some people just go onto a webpage like Devon Creation, and they go ahead and make themselves a hat, wear a sweater, and have claws. That's a cheap fursuit. It's a very cheap partial that they can go in. And the reason behind it is just so they can dress up with other furries. And yeah, I know there is pretty bad stigmas out there about fursuiters and other things, and just like all conventions that you go to, it's very similar to like going to a Comic-Con or going to like Katsucon, which is around Virginia. In Virginia, it's a very big anime convention. You can't go to a single anime or comic convention or even Comic-Con without finding someone dressing up as a movie character, or like Spider-Man or Batman. The problem with that, and the main difference between those two, is most furries are original creation. You got some furries, kind of like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and the Disney furries, but I'd say about 98% of all furries and fursuits are original creation. You can identify the suit, and there's a lot of people that can do that. They see a suit, and one of the most popular furries I know of that I've came close to meeting, but not actually has been able to sit down and talk to, is the furry known as Telephone. And she's an extremely popular furry, but all she does is she makes her suit, she goes to the convention, and she behaves as if she is her own persona. Just kind of like if you dress up like Han Solo, you're going to be whipping out guns and then have a big debate about who shot first. I mean, it's going to happen. So really, it's not anything any worse than what other people make it. There is a very set few that might spoil this fun for other people, and be a standing point of rumors, but people in general will do that with anything you give them. So that's what cons are like. In cons, they're not all furries are dressed up. I'd probably say about less than 50% of the furries inside a FurCon are not dressed up in suit at all. At least 50% of them are not dressed up. And like for every couple thousand people at a convention, maybe only a couple hundred, if that, is dressed up in the fursuit. Because they're way too expensive. They're very creative, and just depending upon how much dedication someone wants to put into their persona will really depend upon what kind of clothing they wear. So we went over furries, anthropomorphs, and furry conventions. Now you get into the artistic side, which a lot of people may not know this, but furries are extraordinarily artistic. have never seen another group of class, maybe bronies, which that's an entire other story, but maybe bronies can get into the artistic realm as much as furries can. The main thing about bronies, though, they are all ponies or dragons. That's about it. Maybe a serpent, but they're all kind of set in determination on what they are. So the artistic side of furries can be very, well, artistic. You got people that does headshots of just like their bust of their persona, from anywhere from like $3 to $5 for a pencil sketch, all the way up to $60 to $160 for like 3D rendered. So you have like $160 for people that want 3D rendered characters. So you have furries that are artistic, you have furries that dress up in suits and go to cons, and yeah, there is a lot of furries that have like furryistic behaviors. I mean, it's not just putting on the suit. You got people that dress up and act like their character. So if you're a cat furry and your persona is a feline of some kind, you're probably going to be batting at balls of yarn. If you're an angel dragon, like a Dutch angel dragon, like Telephone is, you're going to be acting like Telephone, since she's her own creation. That is defined by her. But if you're a dog, of course you're going to act like a dog, or at least the good people that act their part will. That's why I said it's so common to see foxes and wolves, and to create your own persona is very specific to the person, at least it should be. Like the people that start in, they're like, oh, I just want to be a fox. And it's like they don't put any thought into it. It's like you're really trying to describe yourself and what you would be if you could be any creature, mythical or non-mythical, that would best match your personality. And sometimes you need some friends to help you out to identify what you are. A lot of people choose Zodiac Signs. I technically was born on the year of the dragon, so, and I'm a Leo, so I could have went with like a dragon lion hybrid, but I chose to stick to, the pretty basics, and I went with a dragon and made my own character from the ground up. Now back onto the artistic furries. It is true that there is a lot of adult content out in the furry realms, but this probably makes up maybe 10% of the furry fandom, if that. I'd say if that. You got a lot of clean artwork, and also 3D animated movies. But just like everything else, everything can be sexualized. My Little Pony, you got Clop. You got Star Wars, oh, most definitely. You have Twi'leks that are naked. And you can't name a single thing that can't be found on YChan that hasn't been sexualized. So, but anyway, to answer the questions of what is a furry, it's a pretty broad spectrum of what it could be, but really it comes down to it, it's a bunch of people that are just being their own character and being themselves, that have a mutual agreement of the standards of being a furry, and that can be found on Wikipedia. It's its own behavior, its very own subculture. So you can have, just like being a Star Wars fan, there's more stormtroopers in Columbus than I could count. Like, everyone dresses up like a stormtrooper. Yeah, that's kind of, generic, but at the same time, they have their own culture. They have terrible aim. So being a furry is actually a pretty exciting thing. I choose to go by Shadow. That's what my real name is now. Is Shadow is what my friends call me. Is starting to be what my family calls me. Because it's like a nickname, but it's a nickname that's more personal. Like, it's not like diesel, like just because, you know, I'm muscular or anything like that. It's my own specific character. Like, there's a furry around here in Chillicothe named Nova, and in person, in real life, even if you were just meeting up to, you know, go to the park or something, we would address ourselves by our persona names, because let's face it, you don't get to choose your name, and changing your name can be a lot of headache, explaining it later on down the road. So you go by your nickname or your furry given name. Anyway, hope that would clarify a few things on what a furry is. Until next time, Shadow out.